Let your patriotic values guide how you invest your money and save for your future. With Monorail's Patriot Portfolio, your investment dollars get out of globalist corporations and into companies that support Christian and American values. Monorail is perfect for anyone who wants to learn how to invest their money like a pro, or a conscious-minded investor that wants to put their money where their values are. Open an account today at monorail.com/Kirk. That's monorail.com/Kirk. Any disagreements, guys? Yeah.
Hi there. My name is
And then we got to wrap soon. It's getting late.
Yeah, hope you're doing well. So my question was about separation of church and state. So I know I did some research. I've researched your positions. I know you've come out and said you don't believe in the separation of church and state. And I'd like to ask you why, even though there's the non-establishment clause, freedom of religion, and then there's lawsuits in the historically like Engel versus Vitale that come out to say that church and state should be separated.
It's a fair question. So I don't believe in a national church.
Okay.
More importantly, let's forget church and state.
Okay.
Can we both agree there's no separation between morality and state?
I agree.
Okay.
It's just lawmaking.
That's cool. That's where I really live in. What I'm saying, though, is the church should influence that morality. That's what I mean by that. Because at some point, people are going to have to make a decision of what is good and what is bad, what is permissible and not permissible. And I think the church or Christianity should inform those decisions.
So, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and it's undeniable that there's been a heavy Christian influence on our nation, right? I think 55 out of 56 founding fathers were
Exactly.
Christian, as
you know my stuff.
I do. Yeah, I've looked
Good
at your
for you.
stuff. Yeah. But where I disagree is putting the 10 Commandments in classrooms, things like that.
Well, so let's pause on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm guessing you're not a Christian. That's okay.
I'm not. I'm Hindu.
That's fine. So even as a Hindu, what moral objection to the 10 Commandments could there would you agree if everybody followed the 10 Commandments, better place to live?
So there's obviously commandments like thou shalt not kill. I mean, these are just moral standards
Yeah,
that
but I
almost
think
everyone
in
follows.
Hindu philosophy, the only one that would be is, don't take any other gods before me, being
Right,
a
that's what I was
polytheistic
thinking.
faith, right? Having no idols, that would violate Hinduism, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, honoring your father and mother, Hindus are pretty good with that, right?
We try.
Not coveting, right? Not stealing, not committing adultery. I imagine that's against Hindu religious teaching, right?
It is.
What I'm getting at is despite the monotheism that is embedded in the 10 Commandments, you can agree that it does have good external moral teaching, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm getting at, is that I encourage anybody to show me a better book, a better teacher than the Bible to create good citizens.
The Constitution.
Well, does the Constitution morally teach us? The Constitution's a template, right?
I think, but is it the place of classrooms to tell children what their morals should be based off of a religious document?
Does in a classroom, this is a really important question you asked. Mm-hmm. If a kid is sitting in a desk and another kid, and he hits the other kid, should the teacher say that's wrong?
Yes.
The teacher's teaching morals.
Well,
if the kid goes and steals his lunch, is it for the teacher to say don't steal? If the kid goes around and starts harassing and bullying another kid, should the teacher say don't do that?
But what about those 2 commandments?
No, hold on. I'm going to get there. The teacher, of course, should come and say, stop it, don't do that, because the teacher is appealing to a moral order. We think that moral order should be in every classroom, the 10 Commandments. Should be referring to that. This is why you shouldn't do that. This is why that. Now, as far as those 2 commandments, I have a brutal truth to tell you. That, albeit I'll posit that not every founding father was Christian, they were all monotheistic. Polytheism does not mix very well with Western social order. I'm not criticizing Hindus.
It's all good.
But monotheism is a Western idea. One God, one morality. And here's why. When you have multiple gods, you get different moralities. And the West largely has embraced the idea that there is a standard of conduct, that there is a best way to live. C.S. Lewis called it the Tao, or the way, or the best path in his book Abolition of Man. What I'm getting at is that it's tempting to say, hey, the teacher should just say neutral. But we all know the number one thing a teacher does is not instruct, it's to control the behavior of out-of-control kids. And by controlling behavior, you're actually imparting morals on the kids. Does that make sense?
It does, but even then, the question still arises that, yes, there are moral codes that Western civilization has kind of been built on, which is the 10 Commandments.
So we should go back to those
Abrahamic
roots,
religions.
right? We shouldn't.
However, we have school codes, school laws, district laws, and all of these. Most school codes have these.
But they're all
morals.
a reflection of a different moral code.
So why put the original?
So go
Why
back
not-
to the roots. The
but
roots is the
why?
best. Because why would we cut off the life force of our civilization? If we know that something has given us life and given us prosperity and has grown into the greatest civilization ever, isn't going back to the roots really finding our way home.
Well, like to an extent, you're right. Absolutely, I understand your point, and I can totally understand. But when you have these 10 commandments, and you have a child such as me, a Hindu person. If I was a child, and I see the 10 commandments on a wall, to me it's an endorsement, not so much as, hey, here are some rules that you should follow. Because even with those two, I'm still feeling cognitive dissonance that like I'm being told this, but I also believe this at home. So why
Fair
not
enough.
stick with those school codes and those local
But
laws?
I think we're actually
you
agreeing at some point.
I agree.
At some point, there has to be rules for life.
Absolutely.
We think the best rules for life were given to Moses on Sinai. We think that was the best way for human beings to live.
We slightly disagree.
We disagree. And I would contest, though, can you show me a civilization that is as prosperous as the West that embraces polytheism?
The United States of America?
Well, we're not polytheistic.
We embrace it.
Well, no, we
the
don't.
First Amendment.
No,
It's
hold
freedom
on.
of religion.
No. We don't embrace polytheism, okay? We are a monotheistic civilization, fundamentally. For example, in the Declaration, God is mentioned 4 times. It even says ordination in the Constitution. Now, you are right. You can be a polytheist, right? At some point, though, the Western moral order does believe in the idea of a singular God. That has been a tradition, and it's worked really well for us. And if the solution is like, hey, we're going to have a school code, what we want to do is peel back that school code eventually back to where it came from.
But what's the point inherently? Again, I apologize if I keep
No, it's
repeating
okay.
this.
The point
what's the point
is
of
that
peeling this code
well,
back
it's
instead of
not-
keeping this code that's more inclusive to people like
I
me?
wouldn't say it's I don't mean to offend you. I don't
That's all
seek
good.
to be inclusive.
Reasonable.
I seek what is best.
Okay.
And the 10 Commandments are what is best. Again, and so would it be offensive to a young Hindu kid? Maybe, maybe not. But it also is a reminder, they're living in a country that is a monotheistic country. If I went to India and there was, the Vishnu or whatever, Vishnu,
yeah.
right, code, I wouldn't be offended because I'm a visitor in a polytheistic country. Does that make sense? So if I go to China and they have the Confucian code for kids to live by, I wouldn't be like, well, take that down because I'm a Christian. So it's sometimes when you're a visitor into a monotheistic culture, think you can still have your own beliefs, but understand monotheism is one of the most important, ethical monotheism is one of the most important worldview elements that created this amazing civilization.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you for your time. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course. Would you
Thank
sign
you.
this hat?
Yes.